Our Heavenly Father, we really invite you here. We know that from the very, very beginning of your conception of human beings, that you wanted to have true ideal relationships of husbands and wives, and that the greatest blessings, the three great blessings that you gave us. Number two is the husband and wife relationship and the family. So as we share this, really inspire each of us, help guide us, and help us connect with your heart through all of this. I pray in the name of Jim and Hiromi Stevens, a blessed Central family. Jew. So, thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest. My wife and I were invited to be heads of the Blessed Family Department of the Family Fed back, it was 2004. So for 5 years together, we attended lots of marriage conferences, we read books, we did all kinds of research, and we put on seminars, we helped with matching programs, and so we learned a lot of things. The foundation's already out there. Beginning in the early 1990s, research began to be done on the differences between men and women. Before 1990, most of the scientific research was only done on men, because women had hormonal cycle, which they figured would mess up the scientific evidence. So they thought all people were the same until around the 1990s, when they started to do research on the differences between men and women. Amazing, right? But it's sort of God's providence in a way also. John Gray, who wrote The Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, he did not have scientific evidence for that book. It all came from his experience counseling men and women and couples. But then after he wrote that book and after they started doing the research, they found out that men and women are really different, phenomenally different actually. And since the early 1990s, there's been an explosion of scientific research understanding the differences between men and women. So that's what this talk is about. Some of the differences that they've come up with that they understand now from research. And as a result of that, we can see how the ideal relationship can come about. God didn't create men and women the same. He created them to be complementary in their relationship. So if it's working out, it's heaven on earth. But if it's not working out, it's hell on earth. And that's what we've seen since the fall of Adam and Eve. Because they lost their relationship with God and who they are in their original natures, they began to fight with each other all the time. And that's what we've seen all throughout history. The history of Cain and Abel is murder. The history of husband and wife is just as bad. It's really serious issues that need to be resolved. This is the time in history when we can do that. My wife and I always tell a story which, after we understood the differences between men and women, she said, 25 years in our marriage, she thought that all the differences were because she was Japanese and I was American. Finally, she realized it's because I'm a man and she's a woman. Fortunately, she was very forgiving in thinking I was American, so she forgave me for all the things, the differences. But it is really the differences between men and women which is fundamental and really the essence of the relationship. And I have a slide later on which says, God told me one day, he said, I made man and women so different that for all eternity you can be married and keep learning new things about each other. You'll never understand each other completely for all eternity, because we're meant to be married for all eternity. So we have to be so different that for all eternity we will be having give and take. It won't get boring, in other words. All right. I made a website for marriage enrichment, and I'm going to put there all the PowerPoints, all the documents, all the research. Of course, not everything I've got, but a lot of the good stuff for marriage enrichment. So the videos that I show and the PowerPoints. I'm going to get Dorot's information, what my wife is going to show. It's all going to be on this website. So if you go to themarriagelibrary.com/ME, capital M, capital E for marriage enrichment, you can get all this stuff. And I'll email everybody that, so you got the link, make it real easy for you. But there's lots and lots of stuff here. And I'll add more as we go. I do websites always. I had a class for HSU class, so I put all that stuff up there. We had 10 classes, and all the information that I shared during that time is on another website, which I'll link to also. So, the mass of information is phenomenal. So obviously we can't give it to you all in one day or even a short period of time. And it wouldn't do you any good anyway, because I've seen this chart of how much you forget a lecture. 3 days later, it's 90% gone. So I don't worry about trying to give you everything, but I recommend that you decide to invest a certain amount of time in your relationship, because it won't happen if you don't make that decision. Too many other things become urgent and the relationship will suffer. So I tried to make it easy for people. There was one point in my life where I made a daily marriage tip every day, and I posted on the internet for 3.5 years. So there's 1,067 marriage tips, and there's a link at the bottom of this website to those marriage tips. If you just read 2 of those a week, after a year you would have read 100. After 2 years you would have read 200. Right? That will help a lot. It's just like reading the Bible. This kind of information, it will stay in your mind, and God will remind you this kind of stuff when the time comes and you need it. Okay? So I'm going to show you a video just to kind of kick things off by John Gray. Where's my mouse here? He's the one who wrote the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and he's written a lot of other books. He talks kind of fast, but this is just one piece out of a big lecture he gave after he wrote one of his book called Why Mars and Venus Collide. But he describes for men how to listen to women, or how women can help men listen better. It's just 5 minutes long.
He's all right, you got his attention. Only 10 minutes. Now what am I supposed to do? You don't have to do anything. Just look my direction. Occasionally nod your head. If there's a long period of silence, you could say, tell me more. That's it. No more talking. And when I'm done, there'll be no talking about what I talked about. So basically, you don't have to say anything, do anything, fix anything. You don't even have to feel bad. Nothing. There's no performance for him to do. So there's no way a guy could lose with this. And it only takes 10 minutes. I'll try it. And he has to look in her direction. And he's not even tempted anymore to look away, because men look away to figure out, what is she saying? What does she want me to do? What is my plan? And another unique thing about men and women's brains is that if a man has a stroke up here in the listening part of the brain, front left, he'll never listen again. It will die and that'll be gone. If a woman has a stroke in the front left where she listens, there won't be a drop in hearing at all. She's got 6 other places in the brain where she can listen from. Women can analyze and listen. They can feel and listen. They can prioritize and listen. They can remember and listen. They can plan to the future and listen. And they can prepare to talk and listen. All those things simultaneously. Men can only do it from one place. So women often feel he doesn't listen. And the truth is, men don't listen ever. and the way women need to be heard. Matter of fact, no man ever in history has ever really heard a woman unless she uses this technique. Because what will happen when a woman starts talking about problems is instantly, the wiring in a man's brain is differently. The amygdala responds to problems. In a man's brain, the amygdala is wired up to the action center. So as soon as she starts talking about problems, he thinks, must take action. What am I supposed to do? Is this problem important? Is it not important? Not important, cancel. Go back up, listen to what else she's saying. So he's literally running around his brain. Occasionally, if there's strong feeling, he has to relate to the feeling, and then the whole thing stops. Because once he goes to the feeling part of the brain, he can't think at all, nor can he remember what you're talking about. So he's literally, while you're talking to him, his brain, he's running all over the place. If you tell him you don't have to solve anything, fix anything, analyze anything, you don't have to change anyway, you don't have to feel bad, guess what's going to happen? He will stay located in one part of his brain. And he'll just look at you. And looking is easy for him as long as he's not doing the other stuff. The amygdala is wired up to action and looking. And of course the looking has to be slightly active. So I suggest you just move your eyes just a little bit around her face. You just stay busy and keep stimulating dopamine in the brain and gives you energy. It will, and she won't know the difference. And as one woman said, I don't care if he's looking around my face. He's never even seen my cheeks before. So I'm happy with that. But and I talk about the various ways to keep him focused. But the bottom line, if he senses that he's helping her, then his testosterone levels will be rising rather than falling. You know, when women talk about the stress of the day, if you listen to what they're saying, they'll be talking about a variety of different kinds of problems and tension, stressful situations. 70% of them have no solution at all. You know, like the weather here is bad, the weather is good, the traffic, there's no solution there. She's just talking about some of her feelings of frustration and whatever. But the guy is over there taking it literally. What am I supposed to do? I can't change the weather. Do you want us to move? I mean, do you want a better car? Am I supposed to get a job here? What? You know, the whole thing, he's responding to these problems. If you tell him, I have a big problem, which is I'm stressed out like the rest of the women in the world, and all I need is more oxytocin. And how do I get it? I can talk for 10 minutes at a time, and you don't say anything, do anything, fix anything, change anything, and I feel better. There's not a man in this world that won't do this. And we are great listeners. We just have to be given the instructions. You're just going to listen, and he can do it. And just to think about the perfect compatibility between men and women, if you get objective about this, men love coming home from work, forgetting their problems, and watching TV. They like to watch the newscaster talk about other people's problems that they don't have to do anything about. So women, it's a perfect fit. You just have to set them up and say, okay, I'm here to tell you the news. My problems that you don't have anything, you don't have to do anything, just sit back and listen and don't change the channel. And he'd be happy to listen the whole time. Then you have to make this work. You have to then walk out of the room. Don't ask him the dreaded words, well, how do you feel about that? Or what do you think about that? Because then no matter what he says, it ruins it. For him and for you. So he knows that. So take away all anxiety with the whole thing.
Get it? This is very hard to practice, actually, but it's good advice to try. Because he's right, and I realize how much he's right, that we're always thinking about how to solve a wife's problems. And it's very hard to listen and not do anything. All right. So, this is my talk. As we know, God is masculine and feminine. God is perfectly harmonized. And so the image of God is harmonized masculinity and femininity. Right? This is, therefore, our greatest joy, and I mentioned this, our greatest joy is when we are reflecting God. Our masculinity and femininity is in harmony. And we can even experience that directly sometimes when we are loving each other and we have a spiritual experience together with God. So that's the greatest joy. Also the greatest suffering in the world is husband and wife relationships. More murders take place in the family than in society. It's crazy. So the three great blessings, I had an inspiration one day that, just like your mom always says, grow up, get married, and get a job. Right? That's the same thing God said to us. Be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. In essence, that's what we're doing. That's what it's all about. It's not confusing. But when we fulfill this, when we're really grown up, we become the image of God. That is joy. That is the greatest joy when you experience God as an individual. But there's more joy than that God intended for us. He intended us for experience the joy of husband and wife, the joy of parenting, the joy of grandchildren and descendants. So forever, joy keeps increasing. Before you were married, you had individual joy. Now that you're married, there's a new level that you didn't really understand or even think about. There's a greater joy. When you have a child, you experience level of heart that you imagined, but you didn't really know what it was like. Until you have a grandchild, a little ways off for you guys, but you don't know what a grandparent feels. I imagined, but I really couldn't understand what it was. I really didn't do very good at imagining what it felt like to be a grandparent until I had a grandchild. And then I realized, my feeling was, we had a granddaughter first. This is the most precious human being ever born. I felt like I want to give this person all of my love, everything. This person deserves everything the universe can give her. I was surprised to feel that. But I realized that's the way God felt about us. That's the way God felt about the creation from the very beginning. So, it was meant to just grow deeper and deeper and wider through all eternity. And then, of course, we experience joy in interacting with the universe around us. Men and women are different. Men enjoy building things or fixing things. Women enjoy relationships and decorating the house and the flowers and everything. But this is a whole new level of joy and happiness, creativity, service. That was the original plan of God. So we are designed in the image of God, and that is our purpose in life. As we understand that, then we can begin to get the perspective on how men and women interact with each other successfully as an object to God. And I said this, for all eternity, we will continue to have deeper and deeper and deeper give and take relationship. And as our family grows, our descendants grow, more and more friends, life gets better and better and better. You're just starting out. You guys are at the seed level of what's a family tree. I calculated one time, we had 5 children. If each of our 5 children had 5 children, and it kept going for 10 generations, how many descendants would we have at the 10th generation? 9 million. Just 10 generations, 300 years. 9 million descendants. Are you kidding me? That's exponential, right? If you just have 4, all the way down, everybody has 4 kids, you'd have 1 million descendants. 1.6, I forget, something like that. And that's not counting all the in-laws either. So, it's phenomenal what God created. I said, we'll never understand each other. Don't expect that you understand. Because you can easily make a mistake. Don't mind read the other person. That's important. So, I have collected over the years hundreds of cartoons So I'm going to share some of those as we go along here. Now, can you see what this is? This is a man, just on off. And this is a woman. All these complicated dials. Anyway. With great deal of satisfaction and pride, we are pleased to inform you that the first volume of Basic Introductory Manual to Understanding Women. That was good, right? All right. So as I mentioned, since the 1990s, lots and lots of books have come out, which most of these I read at one point or another. All these are really good. This is really written more focused on men, how to improve your marriage without talking about it. They did a lot. These are researchers, people who do a tremendous amount of scientific research and write really good books. For women only, this woman interviewed thousands of men, thousands of women, and wrote books. What do men really want? This is where, and she really proves that respect is more important to a man than actually feeling love. You know, that the Bible is being proved over and over again. This woman did a lot of research on what really makes people feel close. Very good stuff. His needs, her needs, and on and on. Act of marriage, Mars and Venus, the bedroom, intended for pleasure. These are all about sexual relationship, basically. How to, and typically, although John Gray's not as religious, these two are very Christian. I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but from, it's from a different book he wrote, John Gray. But what they have discovered is that men and women's bodies are so different that the chemicals between the nerves that connect the nerves from our body to our brain are different. The chemicals are different. The primary chemicals for men are testosterone and dopamine. And so, based on research, testosterone is associated with achievements and accomplishing, being flexible. Let me bring up the rest of this. So, if a man's testosterone, if he's tired or whatever is going on, his testosterone starts going down, then you're going to experience these kind of things scientifically. It's not his fallen nature. It's what happens when a man's testosterone is low. He's not flexible anymore. He's not motivated. He becomes moody and depressed. And there are foods that if you don't get enough of a certain kind of nutrition, you're going to be low in testosterone. If you're not doing things successfully, accomplishing things, if you're not feeling good about yourself, your testosterone goes down, you become depressed, moody, inflexible. That happens. The other primary hormone for men is dopamine. This is our desire to be new and different, some excitement, some energy. We want to be stimulated. Okay? When our dopamine is low, we want to go in our cave. We just want to be alone. We don't want to talk. We just want to be by ourselves for a while and energize ourselves. So this is where you feel lack of energy, lack of interest, passion. And I know from experience, you can almost tell when you're getting low in these things. Right? So what happens, dopamine particularly, is like an addictive drug. If you're doing video games, you get a dopamine high and you're getting testosterone from achieving things in the video game. But if you go away and you start to get a little tired, then you want that dopamine fix again. So you go back to the video game to get the dopamine and the testosterone again. So that's how addiction happens in men. Men have 20% more dopamine and 20, 30, even 40 times the testosterone of the average woman. And this controls our bodies to a large extent. That's why men are so much stronger, but men's strength tends to be short-lived. we can work hard for a short period of time, then we need to rest. Women, their bodies tend to work continuously for a really long period of time. They don't have the same kind of energy rebuilding cycle as men. Under stress, men and women lose their hormones. So under stress, testosterone, dopamine, we lose it. And so then we would become these things. We can't make a commitment, can't even make a decision. I know when I get sick, I don't even know what I want to eat. I can't think. So the hormones for women, let me get all this up here. Oxytocin and serotonin are the two main hormones that are in the women's bodies in their neurosystem. So talking, sharing, communication, cuddling, that's what these hormones are associated with. Familiarity, closeness, and intimacy. So women, this is why they need to talk, because talking and sharing, and this produces oxytocin. That's what makes their body feel good. Whereas a man talking and sharing, if he can't solve the problem, his testosterone goes down and he gets sleepy and tired. So there's a scientific reason why it's difficult for men to listen to women's problems if they can't do anything about it. Their testosterone goes down. They become grumpy, irritable, tired, and so forth. Whereas women, when they talk, their oxytocin goes up. That's why my wife has been able to spend all day and almost all night talking to a good friend of hers. And what did you talk about? I was just dumbfounded. All day and all night? Only one time, but you did it. You did it. Or we'll get in a car, we'll drive somewhere an hour away, and we don't talk that much because my fault. But if she gets in a car with another woman, the whole hour they'll talk. It's amazing to me, but that makes her feel good. She's wired that way, and it's amazing. And as Dora was talking about, the spider web, this leads to this, to this, to this, to this. Everything is connected. I have a video by Mark Gungor, which is funny about, have you seen men's brains and women's brains? Have you seen that video? The difference between men's brains and women's brains? Mark Gungor is really funny. And if you haven't seen it, maybe I can show it over lunch or something like that. Very funny. But he nails it as far as understanding how men's brains and women's brains think differently in a funny way. So when women are low in oxytocin and serotonin, for example, they'll feel overwhelmed, stressed out. Everything's wrong. The whole world is messed up, and it will be that way forever. It's kind of the feeling that comes over them. So if you recognize that, you go, okay, I know it's not like I have to solve that problem. It's like I need to get her some serotonin and some oxytocin. Right? Serotonin is contained in chocolate. So sometimes chocolate's the answer. So men produce more serotonin than women. That's why we feel fine most of the time. Women use it 8 times faster. Men's serotonin level goes down slowly. Women will lose their serotonin 8 times faster than men. It's all this stuff is really shows why our relationships can be challenged, because we're not getting the physical hormones that we need. And nutrition has a very significant effect on the balancing of our hormones. So, during stress, in a crisis, men actually, a challenge, men like a challenge. They like that kind of stress. And that will bring testosterone for a man. So you get this fight or flight. You've heard of this fight or flight. In a challenging, stressful situation, a man is going to fight or he's going to run away. He's going to do something. Women don't really understand that. And until the early 1990s, they thought women were like this too. But they found out that women don't do that under stressful situations. Women typically under stress, they want to improve, they want to up their oxytocin and serotonin. Therefore, tend and befriend became the understanding of what women do in a stressful situation. They will reach out to share and try and build relationships. So when the two boys are fighting, the mom runs over there and tries, let's be friends. Right? Why can't you forgive each other, say I'm sorry, and get along? But that's not what the boys are doing, and that's not the solution that they need for what's happening in their lives. So when mothers understand this, you can be much better at interpreting what's happening with your sons. So here. Why women watch the movie Titanic? Because of the love and romance. Why the men watch the Titanic? Because they want to see the Titanic go on, go sink. Is this true or not? What about this? What did you think of this?
I never really watched the movie, but
okay.
I never really watched those things. Just watch the scene with the Titanic.
Exactly. You go right here.
Watch this stuff.
That's right. I want to see that.
I want to see what the men will do in the crisis.
That's right.
Yeah.
The men. What did the men do when the Titanic was sinking? I was watching that. I was deeply moved by those orchestra musicians who stayed on there and just played, knowing they were going to die. Yeah. Yep. Talking can stress men and de-stress women. Right? So for women, talking through hurtful experiences can be very helpful and physically comforting. Their oxytocin is going up because of the way the female brain works. Talking through emotional issues have a calming effect. However, the opposite is generally true for men. Most men, such discussions of emotional experiences create anxiety and distress. So women probably feel soothed by talking, but however, men can feel like torture. That's why men sometimes tune out, Stonewall, I can't deal with this. It's a desperate act of self-defense. They don't want to do it because they don't know how to do it, or it's actually their physical bodies are not designed. Testosterone is not increasing, not helping them physically. I've got one slide, I'm not sure where it is. Oh, here's a cartoon. Oh, I'm so glad we had this little talk. See, she's flying high. And he is totally messed up. There's scientific research that shows that if you have an argument, a husband and wife have an argument at breakfast, it takes the woman somewhere 20 to 40 minutes to go through that whole thing and sort it all out and know how she feels and thinks about the whole thing. The man can take 7 hours to deal with it in his conscious. So the woman is ready to talk about it in less than an hour. But the man is not ready to talk about it because he doesn't know how he feels about it. He hasn't sorted it out yet. He hasn't gone here and here and all this kind of stuff for 7 hours. That's like dinner time. And maybe even then he's not ready to talk about it. This is amazing research that shows this kind of thing. So women, you got to understand, allow the man to process a situation before he's ready to talk about it. And so it's good to ask, are you ready to talk about it? Here's a really good book. It's a Christian couple who wrote this book, so I recommend this one. And it's a good summary of a lot of the scientific research, and most from a Christian perspective. It's really good. His Brain, Her Brain. So a lot of the information from now on I got out of that book. So each sex, men and women, asks for things that they want or need in very different ways. So women have been taught since childhood to use hint language. Hint language means they're not really saying directly what they want. And so they negotiate with others so they can do things together. So a woman wants to do things with another woman. So they negotiate so they can do it together. See, when women go to the bathroom, they go with another woman, right? You hear that many times. So how did they decide to go together? Without negotiating a little bit, without saying, do you have to go to the bathroom? Or I have to go to the bathroom? No. Then you go together, right? A man, does he do that? No. That would be weird if a man did that. So men don't have that same kind of negotiating with other men type thing. I'm going to do it. I'm independent. I make my own decisions. He gets testosterone from making his own decisions and accomplishing on his own, whereas women get oxytocin from working together. So a woman may say, honey, wouldn't it be nice to go see a movie tonight? Or would you like to go to a movie? Or would you like to go out for dinner? When she's really saying, I want to go out for dinner. Right? She's hinting to him what she wants. But guys, if you're not really paying attention, you won't get it. You have to be able to understand, if you're asking me if I want to go to a movie, I don't want to go to a movie. I say, I don't want to go to a movie. But you miss the opportunity to realize she's saying she wants to go to a movie. So this is stuff you learn. Often men don't get the hint. After many years of marriage, you can sometimes get the hint. So the hint language is not a part of a men. Men are very direct. We say what we want. If we want help, we ask for help. But we only ask for help when we really need help. We don't ask for help when we think we can do it ourselves, even if it would take us longer than the expert doing it. Because I get testosterone from accomplishing it myself and not needing help. Whereas a woman will be quick to ask for help because that is oxytocin producing. She is validating another person. She's creating a relationship. She's getting good oxytocin from that. And they're helping each other and cooperating, collaborating. This is all good for women's bodies and oxytocin producing. So, even our brains are different. We're not talking about the difference of intelligence. We're talking about what are our brains composed of. So, male brains have 6.5 times more thinking matter than female brains. Female brains have 9.5 times more what they call white matter, which is, processing interactions, that kind of thing. One example, the corpus callosum. That's the part of the brain. You know, if you hold a brain, you can actually separate it into two parts. I saw this demonstrated one time. A lady had a brain from a corpse, and she just took it apart. What connects the two brains is called the corpus callosum. And women have 40% more connections between the two sides of their brain than men do. So what happens is when one side of the brain is the feeling side, the right side, the left side is more the thinking side. So if you ask a man how he feels, he hears it with the thinking side, and he has to go over to the feeling side, figure out what the feeling is, bring it back over to the thinking side, and then speak. So you see the delay there, somewhat of a delay. Whereas women, much more connected, they can think and feel at the same time. I experienced this. My daughter was coming down the stairs in a new dress. And I was standing at the bottom of the stairs, and she says, Dad, how do you like my new dress? Okay, I'm looking at the new dress, and I gotta go. I have to go. How do I feel about that? And I have to go back. Before I could say anything, she said, "Oh, you don't like it," because she didn't realize I need time to respond to that. A woman would have instantly responded. See? So this thinking, what John Gray said, women have 7 places in their brain where they can process what they're hearing and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Men don't have that. We are really straight line thinkers, generally, of course, generally. But I realize that's really God's creation. Because when we're out providing or working or creating, we need to focus. We need to do it step by step. We don't need to get distracted by anything in order to accomplish. Our bodies are created to accomplish. Whereas women, if you're the mother and you have 4 kids all crying at the same time, you can hear what they're all saying because you have that many places in your brain that can process it. I'm amazed. I've seen women, when their children are all screaming something different, they later on can repeat back to each child what they said. Like, how did you, I have to listen to one, then I go over to the other one and the other one at a time for me. It really is amazing. And when women are sitting around a table talking, it looks to me like they're all talking at the same time. Because one's talking, they're all talking. Whereas if you watch men sit around a table and talk, it's almost sequential. One talks and another one talks. They don't interrupt each other. Right? In general. So, this is another mode of communication type thing. So this is just a picture of brain activity. This is, I think, doing a math problem. So you'll see that, if I can see if this works, yeah. So you're doing the same thing. Different parts of the brain are being activated for men and women. Doing the same, this is just a side view, and this is the back view. So you can see, doing the same thing, different parts of their brain are being utilized. So here's this. Men's brains can take 7 times longer to process their emotions. So, neurological studies show that men may take up to 7 hours longer than women to process complex emotional experiences. An argument with your wife is very, very emotional for men. All right. I do so communicate. Just takes me a couple of hours to think of a safe thing to say. So, how am I going to respond to this situation? All right, unspoken communication between guys. Hi. Yeah. Unspoken communication between girls. I don't know if you read some of this. They're looking at everything and evaluating it. Spatial abilities. Again, the way God designed our brains means we function differently as far as spatial things go. Brain scans reveal that male's ability is located in a specific and highly efficient area of the right hemisphere. Females' highly connected hemispheres enhance verbal and emotional processing at the same time. Only 10% of women have spatial abilities as good as the average male. So, here is a father throwing his child up in the air. This is as the father sees it. This is as the child sees it. And this is how the mother sees it. I exaggerated that a little bit, but definitely we are different in parenting. Here's another thing, another difference in space. Right. Why men can't listen as well as women? John Gray already mentioned that. Women possess a far greater density of nerves in the area of the brain associated with language processing and comprehension. So, for example, brain imaging study showed men listen with only one side of their brain, women listen with both. Another brain study showed women can listen, comprehend, process as many as 7 different auditory inputs at the same time, whereas men can barely follow one. Because we're hearing something and we're thinking something, we're hearing something. So I find this is amazingly true. And a lot of times we're watching TV or we're watching the King's Report or something, and my wife will start talking about something that just happened or Hyung Jin Im just said. and I'm listening to Hyungjanim and she's talking. I cannot listen to both. I have to stop listening to Hyungjanim and listen to her, or I have to not listen to her and listen to Hyungjanim. That's the way my brain works. So typically I'll turn it off. I'll just pause it. So, okay, now I talk with her. Or if I'm reading the newspaper, reading anything, working on the computer, whatever I'm doing, she starts talking to me. It means my focus, and men are designed to focus, my focus has to either stay here or go to her and try to stay there, because there's psychological energy that's required for me to focus on something. So if I stop focusing on this and I focus on her, that takes energy. Then after I talk to her, I have to come back. It's like losing your place in a book. You go, oh, okay, I got to refocus here. Whereas for her, she can do all that stuff kind of simultaneously, and there's no interruption. It's so much easier for women to go here, 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 but not for men. So many times I put my finger there, okay, what do you, trying to deal with it and learn how to do it. If she asks me to do something, if I'm doing something and she asks me to do something else, right? This is a big dilemma because I'm already doing something. So how, typically, if I don't hear what she has to say and then make some effort to write it down, that what she wants me to do, or get up and do it right away, when I go back to focusing on something else, I'll forget what she asked me to do. It's not another woman would not forget, because everything's connected for them. But it's very easy once I start focusing on something to forget everything else. Same thing happens in my relationship with men. I forget. I say I'll do it, but if I'm not focusing on it, so after many years of marriage, here's what I do. If possible, I do it right away. Even if it's insignificantly small compared to what I'm doing, which is so important. If it's small, I go and do it right away. Because I know I might forget. There's no point in trying to remember if I could just do it and then come back to what I'm doing. The other thing to do is take out a piece of paper and write it down. Keep notes, what you're going to do for your wife. Because, or, do you know a short order cook in a restaurant? Do you know their system? A short order cook, he's doing all kinds of cooking for many, many people at the same time. But he has a system, typically, when the order comes in, he sees what's on the order, so then he's got to cook the eggs and the potatoes and the sausage all at different times. Some he has to start earlier, some he has to, has a sequence to make those things hot all at the same time. So he has a shorthand system. So if he sees the order, he knows he's got certain kind of eggs, he'll put an egg there. So then he's looking, he sees the egg. So he doesn't have to read the order again. He sees the egg there, he knows what it is. So for men, this is good. Make some kind of coding or to-do list for yourself to do for your wife. Okay? That's just a hint from many years' experience. Why men don't listen to women in general. It's harder for men. When men and women speak, the human brain processes the sound of the voices differently. So they're actually saying that when I hear a man speak or I hear a woman speak, it's a different experience for me. Research has said, while most of us actually hear female voices more clearly, which is true, I do, men's brains hear women's voices first as if it were music. But it's not. So now I got to realize, that's not music. So I have to go into overdrive trying to figure out what it is that's being said. So it's more of a challenge for a man to listen to a woman than to listen to another man. It takes more energy, brain energy. Men have to work harder to figure out what a woman is saying because they use an auditory part of the brain that processes music instead of human voices. I don't have real experience with this, but I know it's easier when a man and woman both start talking. Typically, it's easier to listen to the man. There's just so many things. I don't want to totally overload you with stuff. Scientists found that young girls can hear much softer sounds. Sense of hearing 2 to 4 times better than boys. So typically, parents speak softly to girls where they speak more loudly to boys. Men listen one place, women, we did that already. Actually, I don't mind if when you argue with me, it shows you're listening. All right. Women see more colors. Did you know this? Men see typically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you ask, and here's names for all these colors. Women can distinguish colors for some reason much, much better than men. I'm always amazed when somebody's decorating. Like my daughter, she goes, "Oh, that doesn't match." I go, "It's all green. It's all the same color." But see, this man would say either one of those, that's red. Whereas a woman would say, "Oh, well, that's maraschino and that's cayenne." What? I can't do that. I just can't. So the typical rainbow, I don't know if it's in here or not, no. A man sees 7 colors in the rainbow, a woman sees 8 or 9 different colors in a rainbow.
Well, that's why maybe women doesn't have a color blind.
Yeah, I don't know the scientific thing behind color blindness, but yeah, definitely more men are colorblind. I don't know if women are ever colorblind. I don't know. Men's eyes actually focus differently than women's eyes. Men's eyes focus more on the distance and a smaller area. Women's eyes focus much more broadly. Car accidents. Women are much less likely to get hit from the side than men are, because men are focusing on seeing more of the long distance. Men see better than women in bright light, but tend to see a narrower field. I said that. Okay, here's a good one. This is what women see over here, and this is what men see. Ask them to describe what they saw. Is that true, women? What did you see? Well, it was a pink dress. That's what men see. All right. Skin sensitivity. Childhood to adulthood tests measure skin sensitivity, males and females. Even the most sensitive boys are far less sensitive than girls. Women feel more pain in more parts of their body, more often and longer duration. This is kind of surprising. Women's skin 10 times more sensitive than a man's skin. So, this is what men do when they get hurt. Right? A little duct tape and I'm fine. Not that. Smell. Oh yeah, this is a big one. Women smell much better than men. All right. This says increased sensitivity 5 times greater than men. I don't know all the exact research and everything.
When you go into the store and you go with your wife or your daughters and they're looking at perfumes,
Yeah.
they put it on a piece of paper. It all smells like alcohol. They all smell exactly the same, like alcohol.
I know.
Dad.
I know. Same thing. Well, she'll say, "Do you smell that?" What? Or "Do you hear that?" No, I didn't hear that. Yep. So this is why men can get away with that. One. That's our shampoo, right? And why do you have all that? It all smells different to women. Men don't notice it. How women choose shampoo. Is it effective? What's the brand name? How's it smell? What does it do to your hair? What are the ingredients? What color, the quality, design, recommendations, review. How men choose a shampoo. It says shampoo. It's good enough. All right. A man's sense of self defined through his ability to achieve results. This is testosterone again. But a woman's sense of self is defined by feelings and the quality of relationships that they have. Men achieve goals to prove their competence. They feel good about themselves. To feel good about himself, a man has to achieve goals by himself. It's very important. Women, talking, sharing, relating is how she feels good about herself. They value communications, beauty, relationships. You know, this works together really well. It can be so ideal. So I want to finish up. In general, men are more interested in objects and doing things. Men are more aggressive. Women are more centered on personal expression, clothing, feelings are very important. Communication is important. Men rarely talk about their problems unless they're really seeking help from an expert, someone who can help them. They know. Asking for help to do something that you can do yourself is kind of a sign of weakness for us. We lose testosterone. We don't like to do that. For women, offering help is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. We're building relationships. That's a good thing. You get oxytocin from that. So, here's two women with their children, out for a stroll, having a good time, and here's two men with their kids. There's parenting. We are very different parenting. And this is a whole other discussion, but God created us as fathers and mothers, and so the way we relate to the children is very different, obviously, and very essential for the health and growth of the children. So this is a whole other thing that God amazingly created. Such a beautiful, beautiful design, and can lead to such tremendous joy. So I mentioned the short order cook, my daughter, going shopping. One more story. Maybe two more quick stories. Going shopping. I figured it out. Here it is for guys. I figured it out. We were going to the tool store, and right next door was the dress barn. So I said, okay, I'll buy my wife a new dress. But, oh, God help me. And God helped. It was great. So when I go in a store shopping with my wife, my testosterone goes real fast. Where's the chair? But I realized I can really help, actually. So my solution was, what are you looking for? What kind of dress do you want? So she told me her size, and she told me a blue dress. Good enough. So I went all over the store. Every blue dress I found that I liked in her size, I brought it to her to try on. So she just stayed in the dressing room. In and out of the dressing room, right? So there was probably 5, 6, 7 dresses that I brought to her that I liked in her size and were blue. Kind of blue, whatever. Similar. So all she had to do was just try them on, whatever she liked. We got it down to, I think, 2 at that time. We bought 2 that she liked and I liked, and I didn't lose my testosterone at all. In fact, I was pretty excited. I got energy from doing that. And I actually spent more money than I intended to. But it wasn't over right there, because every time she wore one of those dresses to church or wherever, and the other women said, "Oh, what a nice dress," she goes, "My husband picked it out."
The gift that keeps giving.
That's right. I got more points. And I didn't have to do anything. So God helps a lot. Pray to God if you're in that situation where you need some help.
Don't look for the chair.
Yeah, don't look for the chair. You realize what's going on. I got to do something here to keep my testosterone up. One more story. There was a brother who worked with me a long time ago, and we used to go out to breakfast together and talk, and he said he had been matched already, but his wife lived in another city and they weren't together yet. And he was having a lot of trouble with his wife building their relationship. And he said to me at one point, he said, I tried everything I could think of. And in my mind I'm going, whoa. So it's like he was hopeless. But he was sincere. I tried everything I could think of. And rather than saying, wow, you ran out of things, I said to him, well, what did you try? He said, well, I sent her flowers, and she's a bookkeeper, so she said, you shouldn't have spent money on flowers. It's too expensive. And he said, and I sent her candy. She didn't want to gain weight, so it didn't like the candy either. And that was all he said. So I thought, okay, there's probably a few other things that you could have done. So we, as men, we kind of like routine. We like to know how to do it. Once we're successful, we just keep doing the same thing over and over. We don't get out of the box if we don't have to. So that's a good time to get input from God or from other men, particularly older men who have experience, that do something different. This, well-known phrase, try something else. Think of something else. Create. You'll get energy from doing that. And we have later on, the next talk, Hiromi's going to do the 5 love languages. I used to get emails from Dr. Chapman on a regular basis, and he would list, if your spouse is this love language, do this, try this. There's a suggestion. And if your spouse's love language is this, try this. So I had about 50 of those suggestions for each of the different love languages. And that's one of the documents that's on the website for you. So there's always something else you can try, always something new and different you can do, and it helps build the relationships, okay? Very good. Thank you so much. God bless you.